And we're back again on another episode of us. So, we don't have a name. We don't have a name. We should have a name for this, but we're working on it. We're working on it
Well,
slowly but surely.
we're the digital nomad marketers.
And actually, that's quite true because you have a different background today. Because where are you? Where in the world are you, Carmen Sandiego?
Today, I'm in Cabo, Mexico. So for anybody who doesn't know where that is, I'm on the very southern tip of the Baja Peninsula, which belongs to Mexico. Which I don't know why the United States didn't annex the Baja Peninsula when they were doing California. It's like, what were they thinking? But anyways, maybe that's okay because it's not overrun. It's not overly expensive. It's very laid back. It's beautiful. We're staying in a resort right on the water. So literally there's a beach right outside our window, which is terrific. We can even hear the waves. And I just got to tell you a cute little story. Last night we went for a walk and we found all the little turtles trying to run into the water. And my husband kept wanting to pick them up. And I said, no, you have to let them do it their own way. And think about that. That's almost an analogy of everything that we do is that you can do things for them, but that doesn't make them strong. And the turtles have to do that walk into the ocean because otherwise when they get to the ocean, they won't be strong enough to stay out there. And so,
oh my gosh,
everybody,
what a metaphor that is. What a metaphor that is.
It is. And so we had to watch them. Some of them were going to make it. Some of them weren't. Of course, the birds were all flying over, all waiting for supper. And, and I said, well, we'll just stay out here so the birds won't come and let the turtles have their choices. And then, of course, the water would come in and it would take the turtles out. And some of them would go swimming and some of them came back and they had to wait another turn before they would finally get strong enough. But, Jack, my husband, was having a really hard time with it. But I understood what goes behind that in order to be really strong to do your business. I can't do everything for you.
And it's so true in that a lot of times that we've seen people who want to kind of be that overnight success, but you have to be like the turtles. You have to strut your stuff down the beach, but you have to gain those skills. Like each step is a baby step that they have to accomplish. Because you're right. It's like you could just say, oh, okay, we'll just like leapfrog you across the beach and put you in the water. But then you're not going to know how to swim. So it's all part of the journey. Cool.
And you have to build those muscles, which is what the turtles have to do. They have to build the muscles in their legs. Like turtle muscles. I know. We can do a little book about turtles. They're so darling. So, I actually did a little video. I'll have to post it on LinkedIn so that everybody can see the little video that I posted for my granddaughter. We said, go, go, go out into the water, keep going. Because she was here a couple of weeks ago and she was like running around the beach and she was telling the turtles, go, go, go. So that's why I sent her a video yesterday saying, Sloan, look where I am, same beach.
doing the same thing. So,
exactly.
So you being away ties into our topic tonight, which is, or today, tonight, it's still tonight. It's
morning here. I'm in Mountain Time now. I'm even an hour behind. I was in Kansas City.
I love this because it always just reminds me that time is relative. It's kind of like we always used to say it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Well, it's like 8 o'clock somewhere and it's 9 o'clock somewhere else. But today, we'll just say today, because that's vague. We're talking about adopting a minimalist mindset because we were talking about you're in Cabo for like a month. So
yes, and not just for a week. So I mean, I still have to do business. I can't take a vacation for a month. We'd go out of business, but I can bring my business with me. And that's the most important thing. As long as I'm in a resort that has really good Wi-Fi,
that's the key.
I am good to go. And this does, because remember, we even tested it yesterday just to be sure that it was good with Zoom, and it was great. And I was on a Zoom call with a client this morning and everything went well. Actually, I think it's all better than home. But but it was like what to pack, and
And that's
because
the
we were
hard
going
part
for a
because
month.
it's
Yeah,
not like just a weekend of like, oh, I'll just take a little bit of stuff to get me by. You need a lot of stuff, but you can't take a lot of stuff because you can't show up on, planes nowadays with like more than one suitcase, right? So you have to really be purposeful and
right.
be a minimalist.
Right. Well, and that's it. So we had to have a suitcase for our clothes each. And, we probably could have brought two, but then don't forget now, airlines are charging you a lot for that second bag.
Yep.
So even if your first bag is free, or even if you have to pay for your first bag, depending upon, your ticket, that second bag can be huge. And sometimes you want to bring stuff back. So you kind of don't want to check a second bag. So we had to think about what we were going to bring. And it was funny, just on the clothes aspect, it was like, okay, well, I had to have a couple of nice tops. Even if I never go anywhere here, I needed a couple of nice tops for our show. So, I picked, so y'all might see me in the same outfit 4 weeks in a row.
I'm always
Say,
in black, so it's easy.
yeah. And then, so then there was the clothes aspect, and, as long as there's a washer dryer here, that's fine. We can keep recycling the same clothes. But the other thing was, what did I need to bring for my business? And I have learned that everything has to go into my Eddie Bauer backpack. If it can't go into my Eddie Bauer backpack, it's not going. So that's my gauge for what I am taking with me on my trips. So I've got to make sure I have my AirPods, I've got my laptop, I've got my iPad, because, sometimes your laptop might not be working.
Right.
And so you want to have your iPad. In fact, one of my sons laughs at me because he says, Mom, every time you go somewhere, he said, you got everything. You got your phone, your iPhone, your iPad, and your computer. And I said, yes, I do. Because you just never know if one was going to go out. And down here in Cabo, if for some reason my computer went out, I don't know where the nearest Apple store is. So I would have to come home. So it's good to have a backup. And then I also brought these along because, your AirPods are awesome, but they only last for about an hour and a half. And
And then they go
so,
boink, boink, and they're gone.
yeah. And it's interesting. I've noticed that with the new Macs that they just launched, they don't have a place to put these into.
Oh,
So
wow.
they want you to use the AirPods. So if you don't have AirPods, you're pretty much toast. But the thing is, AirPods only have a life of a couple of hours. So I don't know what they do to manage that. I suppose there's a new evolution of AirPods that will probably maybe give you 4 hours or something like that. So anyway,
They'll be
so these
wired,
are
wireless,
important. Yeah, yeah. And
wireless
now,
AirPods.
yeah, and I did bring a cord if I could have, and I just brought this along in case I could have plugged into, a router, but there are no routers in the apartment. So anyway, but I always bring it because I just never know. And then of course I always bring my notepad and my pens. I always make sure I have a couple of good pens, and that's it.
But it makes you realize what things are important and what things are not important. That it's like, it's the other day I was talking with somebody and we were talking about George Carlin's little monologue. He did a comedy monologue many years ago about stuff. It's quite hilarious. It's a little X-rated at the end, but it was a very funny stuff. And he talks about stuff and many a truth said in jest. It's like he talks about how we just, he who dies with the most possessions wins. Like we have so much stuff. We have it stuff in our homes, over here in Israel, it's kind of interesting. They don't have storage units, which like kind of blew my mind because in America, it's like everybody has a storage unit where it's like the stuff that doesn't fit in my house goes into the storage unit. And it's like here, they're just like, what? Like nobody gets that mentality. But I think America is a very stuff culture where it's like, oh, we have attics and basements for our stuff, and then when we run out of room and for the stuff in our house, then we have storage units and sheds, and garages that nobody can park their car in because it's got so much stuff. And, and it's like, I have a friend who watches, I've never seen this show, but it's like about hoarders. And like hoarders are just like when stuff goes wrong and you just become like, okay, we have a cat in here somewhere. We actually had a neighbor once when I was living in Arizona, and God love them. One time we had to go and try to get in. We were locked out of our house and we need to use the phone. And we went over to their house and it was these two sweet little old ladies, but they were hoarders. And we went to knock at their door and we asked them if could we use their phone, because nobody had cell phones then. You had to use a landline. So they were like, well, somewhere. And, she started like moving papers and looking for the phone. And it was just like, oh my gosh, there are people just like in these TV shows where it's like, I got 6 cats and I got all these things. So anyways, something to be said for being a minimalist, so that when you travel, like if we've all seen Rick Steves, he's always, the travel guru. And he's always like walking around, going in Europe with like one little teeny carry-on. And you're like, how does he do it? How, it's like, I have a suitcase just for shoes type of thing. But, he's minimalist when it comes to traveling, which makes so much sense if you're going to go from place to place. But we also have to have that mindset, not just traveling, but in our business. And that, I was thinking about this today, that it's like, even talking about LinkedIn, that LinkedIn, you have to have that minimalist mindset, that bigger is not necessarily always better. Just like you don't want to have that great big suitcase and you get to the airport and they're like, okay, now you're going to have to pay all the extra pounds, for that suitcase. It's kind of the same with LinkedIn. You don't want to have so many people that you're connected to that have nothing to do with you. Like there's no interest. You just like, we know people like that have so many connections on LinkedIn that they can't do LinkedIn because they have so many
overwhelming. It's overwhelming.
And overwhelmed. And so they need to, so you want to have quality over quantity with things like your LinkedIn connections. We've talked before about email lists, that it's like, if you're paying, say for instance, MailChimp, if you're on MailChimp, once you hit over that, I think it's like 1,800 or 2,000 or something like that, then you start paying. So it's like, once you have to start paying, you're just like, well, do I really want this guy on my email list who's like never done anything, like never opens them? It's like, that's when you start going, you have to think of them as magic seats, magic tickets that you don't want to just give to everybody. So I think that's really important.
I agree. I think that's very cool. Sometimes they say less is more, not more. Yeah, less is more. And and it's kind of like even with the programs, if you have too many programs, like for example, we love to do our videos and we've gone through quite a number of different video programs to find the ones that we want. And out of those, we may have, 2 that are our go-to. So we have a minimalist mindset with that, because if we tried to use all of them, we would be a master at none. And so therefore, that's the other thing. Or like even your website.
Or social media.
Yes. And I'll come back to social media, but just to finish up on the website, is that having a website that's way too busy, it may not be a good thing for your business, because your people might get lost on your website and click away because their head starts to hurt and they still don't really know who you're all about. And the social media.
Even with the website, they say that you really shouldn't go deeper than like 3 clicks. So it's like, if you go to, one page and then another page, and that's it. You start, like, I've been to some people's websites where it's like they have these flyaway menus and you're like, I'm trying to click. It's like flying all over the place. Right. And you're like 8 levels down and you're just like, well, how do I get back to the blog? Like, where am I? I'm totally lost. So that's important. You don't want to make your website so complicated that people need to, like, call 911 to get out.
Right. And so going back to the social media, you know, I do, I've done this for several organizations where I put together a workshop that's called Social Media 101. And I kind of go through the top, you know, 4 social media platforms and the things that you need to know. And they teach them this so that they understand which ones do they want to be on. So which ones do they want to be on because they're comfortable with it, but also which
Right.
ones, where are my customers? So I need to be where my customers are. But then I always tell them, pick one, start with one. Don't try and do all of them, because then what happens is it's too much, and you'll spend half your day being on social media in all these different things. You know, like when people say, well, I can use one of these scheduling programs. Well, yes, you can, and that's probably a great way to do it. But for you to be actually interacting on your social media platform, which is very important, we don't suggest that you just post. We feel that you should interact with your social media platform. You can't interact on all of them. So you have to pick the one that you think you're going to get your best bang for your buck. So have a minimalist attitude when it comes to your social media. Pick one and let that be your
Absolutely.
big one.
Absolutely. And same with your processes. Like your processes is another thing with, like, you know, for instance, how do you take payments? You might want to just get one tool. So for instance, we use FreshBooks. With FreshBooks, we can invoice people. We can take payments with it with credit card. We can do proposals with it. We can do a lot of different things with the one tool, because it's really hard if, like, oh yeah, then I have to go over to PayPal and I make this, and then I go over to this program and I make that, because it ends up that you're just like, I don't really remember any of it. And then things fall through the cracks. So it's much
Right.
better to use one tool that can do many things, as opposed to, oh, I use 6 different tools and then I don't remember, well, this one I create invoices, but this one I do buttons, and this one I do that. It just gets to be too complicated. So again, you know, keep those processes down. And then I always kind of like to have the MacGyver. Remember MacGyver? He would like do things like be locked in a place, and he'd use like a, I don't know, he'd use like a paper clip, and he could, like, you know, bring down the helicopter or something like that. But again, it's that same sort of mindset of use one tool and be able to do, you know, multiple things with it. So I think that's really important. It's really
Oh,
important.
yeah, I totally agree.
And I think also too, it's good to, like, one of the things that I've been running up against lately is I got out of having a system in terms of what do I do on particular days. And so one of the things that I, sorry, one of the things that I do is I have to take all of my Zoom meetings and all that sort of thing and upload them to YouTube, because that's where we store all of our stuff. And what I do is I try to kind of do that on a Sunday, so I can kind of do, like, you know, just listen to music, and you know, it takes a long time to upload everything to YouTube. And what I have found is I started getting out of a system, probably because of the pandemic. So you kind of lose track of time, and you get off a schedule. And what I found was I keep doing the, oh no, I get the message that my computer is full, and I can't do anything. So it's like I go to do something and I get that message, and it's just like out of hard drive space. And then I have to sit and be reactive, and then it's a panic.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm,
gotta get it moved up, gotta get, do I have this one up? I don't know if I don't have. So again, that's another part of having a minimalist mindset, is having a structure. So whether you have a structure of, like, when do you create social media posts? When do you do your housekeeping on your, you know, when do you do your housekeeping on your house? You know, all of these things are really important.
It is. It is. So, what do you think the takeaway of all of this is? How do you think people go from not being a minimalist to being a minimalist? How do you make that mindset shift? What do you think?
Well,
You know, and being
one
married to a minimalist, that was probably one of the hardest things I had to do.
Well, I think there's a couple of things. Like, I know that I had to become a minimalist when I made the move to go overseas because
Mhm.
I couldn't bring tons of stuff over from the United States. I only could come with a couple of suitcases. So I had to, do everything. And I put some things in storage. And when you have to pay to store your stuff, it really makes you rethink how, do I really need it? So I know one of the things, I remember that very first day where I sat in my house, and it was like 3-story house with a basement, attic, garage, filled with the shed. I had everything, and I had to sit, and I remember my mother-in-law saying, you make piles. One is called what you give away. Then another pile is what really is important to you. And another pile is trash. And another pile is sell. And that's what I just kept doing. I just kept going through room in my house and doing that. And I think you can do that with anything in your life, of really looking at it. And it's like, if you keep downloading PDFs, like I have a friend who's always downloading PDFs, and she says, I never read them, but I feel I'm like a pack rat when it comes to PDFs. And she finally said, I don't have room for these. I'm never going to read these. Like, there has to be some point. I laugh, and I do that with bananas. I'm always putting bananas in my freezer saying, I'm going to make banana bread. I'm never going to make banana bread. Stop putting them in the freezer. So I think you have to be realistic about what you can and can't do, set priorities. And I'll actually mention an author. I wrote it down. His name is Joshua Becker. And he has a website, a really great website and a blog, and it's called Becoming a Minimalist. He actually has courses on it, but he has probably about 3 or 4 books. He has a blog, and him and his wife, they actually decided to just make this mindset of they didn't want to have a life of stuff anymore. So they set about doing this and, downsizing their life. And people started coming and asking them, how do I do it? Because a lot of people, like you said, they don't know how to do
Don't
it.
know how. You don't know where to
They don't have
start.
a pressing need. I had a pressing need because I was moving. But if you're just living in your house, you don't have that sense of urgency. So then it has to be this conscious decision of, do I really need to have all this stuff? Do you, like, even with our own mom, before our both our mom and our dad were sisters. So we have the same parents. So
And we know so. We know
yes, we know so. And one of the things with our parents is both our parents are gone. And I remember when our mother our mother went into hospice, and she was very ill for a long time. And one of the things that she did was she began putting her affairs in order before she passed away. And she probably spent, I would say, like a good 6 months, maybe a year, of tidying up, getting rid of stuff. Like, we still had stuff to get rid of after she was gone.
But she
But
told us where she wanted the things to go. That was the
yes,
other nice thing, the things that
and
she
there
wanted to
wasn't
go to
junk,
friends. No,
and there
oh no,
wasn't
no.
junk,
But
there
like
wasn't
books
junk.
and special pottery, things like that,
But she
which we
did she did narrow it down to the
Mhm.
things that were important to her. And then one of the things that she asked is, when she was gone, she said, please take the time to go through my effects reverently, which we did, and I'm glad that our mother was not like the 2 little old ladies with the cats and you can't find the phone. And because when they actually passed away, I remember their nephew or something, and he had one of those big dumpsters come to the front, into the driveway, and they spent months just throwing out everything. And you just
Mm.
go, is that the legacy you would want to leave, behind, that somebody just is going to come and sort through your life like it's trash, or do you want to kind of be more like our mom, who was purposeful, went through her effects? I'm sure it was probably a good closure for her too. So sorry, that might have got a little depressing to talk about that. But I think there is that part of it. I know, one of the things I like to share is I've been writing and writing my whole life, morning pages, journaling. I've always been journaling. And before I moved away, I had to figure out, what do I do with my journals? Because I'm not going to leave that's like my raw guts on paper. There was no way I was going to leave that in a storage facility. And so I literally read everything, and I scanned and kept the stuff I wanted to keep. And then the other stuff that, I'd say probably 1/8 of it I kept. The other 7/8 I just threw out because I didn't need it anymore. But it was very cathartic to go through, 30 years of writing and see
Mhm.
who you had become and how you changed and stuff. So that was kind of a cool mindset too. So if you got journals, figure them out now so that nobody ever goes through them.
Right. So is there how we have Raindrop, or is it Raindrop IO that we have for,
For bookmarking, for
yeah, for
bookmarking.
bookmarking, which is really good. But is there a place that for PDFs? Like, because you find a PDF and you say, I definitely want to read it, but I don't have time at this moment. Like, I saw one on LinkedIn yesterday, and it was 77 things to learn about LinkedIn. I
And
forget
that would
who.
be handy. That would be handy.
Yeah, and I was like, but I didn't have time at that moment to read the 77 things that I should know about LinkedIn, but I
Well,
wanted
here's
to
here
save it. So where can I download those PDFs?
okay, so here's what I would suggest, because this is what I did, is I made a personal Box account. So you and I use Box
Oh,
as opposed to
right.
Dropbox. So we have our company Box account, but I have a personal Box account with my personal email.
You mean
And
you have something I don't know about? Oh my God, I
yes,
can't believe you keep secrets from me.
and I put my PDFs in there so that they're not
Mm.
on my hard drive, but I also have the Box app on my phone and on my iPad. And then what you can
Mm.
do is you can go to your iPad, and if you go to Box, you can go through, and I made an actual folder called PDFs I want to read. Like, no brainer, right? But you can actually make them available to read offline. So when I'm traveling and I don't have Wi-Fi, or, whatever, I can then go through them, and they're all just, sitting there able to read, and then you can delete them from there. So that's what I recommend. Get those PDFs all into one spot. And, I guess you could group them, like, here's my LinkedIn ones, and here's my ones on, I don't know, whatever you're hiking, or, whatever your other
Or
hobbies are.
somebody you're following. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually a good idea, because I'm probably like a lot of other people. They're all in my downloads along with my photos and this and the that, and that
It's too
always has to
much.
be it always has to be cleaned out. So that's a good, and I think I do have my own Box account. So I have to go in and find out what email I use.
I can help you with that.
But this will be good for my travels, because, we didn't bring any books with us, because they just take up too much space.
Right.
So yes, we have books that we have downloaded on our Kindle and with stuff like that. But, it still would be, this would be a good time for me to be, while we're away, because I can sit out on the balcony and I can read some of these PDFs. And so that would be good, because I think we do see things that have great value, and we want to do that. And then I would also, kind of just finishing this up, I think too, go through all your programs and decide which ones you want. Like, we kind of went through and said, well, which ones are we using this year? Which ones are we paying for? Which ones do we want to keep using? So maybe you kind of have to have your own SOP. You've got to have your own little place,
Declutter.
yeah, to where you have. And then, like, the other thing I could do, which I think is great, I just thought of this, was that we use ClickUp, and we have our business one and we have our personal one. But if I want to send myself a reminder to go read that 77 things I need to know about LinkedIn, I could make myself a note so I don't forget that it's sitting in my box. And then I could make a note and say, all right, this Saturday, when it's downtime, I can go and read that article.
And you can make it a recurring reminder in ClickUp. So that's kind of cool. We'll have to do an episode on ClickUp because we're finally back to a different project management, and
and I am now
a lot of value.
finally loving it. I didn't like it before. I didn't like it the first go around, but this time I'm really liking it, and I like the templates and the some of the other the layouts that you can have, some of the things that we didn't know. So I think that's the other important thing, is you kind of got to do a little research on your program before you use it, because there could be some things like we just didn't. And now, granted, they could be new, Gillian. They might not have been.
They are new. They are new. And yeah. I think sometimes you get that it's like a program starts one way and you're like, but then you circle back and you come back 6 months later and you're like, wow, look at all the stuff they're doing now. This is really, really impressive. So, early adopters, sometimes it's a risk. And other times you're just like, okay, but on the good thing, sometimes you get into those early programs and you get a deal, lifetime memberships and good fees and stuff like that. So it's good. So yeah, we'll do a whole one of these on project management as well.
Yeah. It's funny. I remember when we did our Facebook challenge in the summer, and we walked them through. I think they had to use like Loom, and they had to use Subly, and then they had to use Capwing or something like that to make it all. And now you don't even need all that. Like, we just found that Subly has developed itself so well now that it pretty much does everything we need. So we were able to eliminate a program.
And they got some cool stuff. Yeah, they've got some cool stuff coming too, Subly. So
that's the other thing. Always look into your programs and see if there's more things they can do for you, and then that will allow you to continue to be a minimalist with that one program.
Exactly. Okay, well, this is good. So we'll stop here. And I think this was a good topic. And if anybody has any questions, go ahead and leave those comments. And oh, shoot, I always forget to do this. We did have a comment. Okay, so we have Jill Larmer.
Jill.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Isn't it amazing? It's like we're already into the second week of the year. How did that happen?
John Asparian said we can't say that anymore. Did you see that his post? He said, like, on these days you can say Happy New Year, and even on these, but now forget about it. We're moving on.
We're Americans. We can do whatever we want.
Oh, I love this. Oh, look at this. It's in Georgian.
From Georgia. I like that. She put the country, which is cool.
Yeah.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Georgia.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I'm looking at that language. So I'm assuming, I don't think, doesn't look Arabic.
No, it must be Georgian.
Georgian must have their own alphabet, and it's just beautiful. I love the way it looks.
It's really great.
Thank you, Marina.
Yeah. So got to get better at that. Oh, and Jill is she is from the London in the UK. So that's great. We love the worldwide part of these LinkedIn lives. That's really cool that we can do that. Just
Jill, would you send me some Cadbury's chocolate, please? And
they can't. They're in lockdown. They can't go anywhere.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, because I was born in London. So it's like I miss a few things. And my last trip into London, I went into town and had we had a high tea, and it was really fun. Clarendon's.
It was fun. I was just talking to somebody about that place. Okay, so we'll have to talk.
Yeah, Rhiannon and I had a high tea there. It was like all afternoon. It was just absolutely awesome.
Nice. Okay, so we'll wrap it up today, and thank you for everybody who stopped by. And if you have any questions in the comments, we'll continue the discussion. So thanks, and we'll be back here next Tuesday, same bat time, same bat channel.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.